Kinetic warfare is now coming to Russia in very real ways, but is it going to lead to the real chances of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine going nuclear? There's some good news about the economy, at least that's what they're telling us. China, once again, is demonstrating its capability to attack U.S. infrastructure, which supports both civilians and the military, even as things heat up in Taiwan. Now, speaking of heat, records continue to be smashed as temperatures rise, which will very well soon have a direct impact on our food supply. And what's the impact of all these recent indictments against former President Trump, as a possibility of a third and fourth indictment appears to drop any day now? How will that impact the already divisive situation in our nation's political landscape? We're going to cover all these in just a few moments. Also, we're going to announce the next giveaway and the winner of last week's giveaway. Now, before we jump in, I do want to give you a quick update. On the channel over the last few months, we've taken a few sponsors to help fund some of the projects I'm going to work on over the next several months here on this channel. Now, the first big project is a grow shed, where I'll be working on climate-controlled vertical grow space. Now, I had the foundation laid last week for this shed, and the shed was set up a few days after that. And I'm going to be working on installing the electrical wiring on the inside, insulation and drywall. And then I'm going to be working with a new sponsor for the channel, shopsolarkits.com, to set up a custom solar configuration to power the hydroponic and small heat pump system that I have that I'll be installing inside of the shed. It's a 98 square foot shed inside, and I'm hoping it's going to give me enough room to really start experimenting with basic setups, which over time I'll be expanding out. What I'll do is I'll take you on the journey over the next few months as I build these systems out. All right, so let's jump into the news. Russia, Ukraine. 3 Ukrainian drones were downed over Moscow, damaging 2 office towers and briefly shutting down the international airport. Now, Moscow has stated that Russian forces had stopped in an Ukrainian attempt to attack Crimea with 25 drones. Ukrainian President Zelensky said, gradually, the war is returning to the territory of Russia, to its symbolic centers and military bases, and this is inevitable, natural, and absolutely fair process. Now, these drone attacks mean that Ukraine is equipped well and confident to strike deep into Russian territory. Kinetic warfare has come to Russia, and we can very well expect to see an escalation in the coming months. Now, both sides attempt to control the narrative, and the truth, it probably lies somewhere between the two. Now, Ukraine claims to have liberated more than 200 square kilometers in their counteroffensive, while Russia claims Ukraine is desperately throwing large numbers of troops at enemy lines. Another narrative that's espoused by the former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev is that the Ukrainian forces are retaking occupied land or Russian land, then Russia would be forced to use nuclear weapons according to the rules of a decree from the President of Russia. Now, he also added, there would simply be no other option. So our enemies should pray for our warriors. They are making sure that a global nuclear fire is not ignited. Now, there's a definite pattern to these stories which indicates the actual trajectory of the conflict. Whenever Ukraine is making headway, someone in Russia's leadership threatens the use of nuclear weapons. And also, Moscow knows that significant strikes in the city would erode what popular support among the people they do have, though it could harden much more staunch supporters. Now, Zelensky knows this, so he orchestrates strikes in occupied territories and against Moscow, but avoids using Western weapons in any large-scale offensive in Russian annexed regions. So while Ukraine claims advances, Putin indicates there have been no significant battlefield changes. And at the same time, Russia struck an apartment building in Zelensky's hometown, killing 6 people. Now, historically, Russia has 3 responses when the tide of war goes against him. Putin ordered attacks on civilian structures to break the Ukrainians psychologically. A high-ranking official in the Russian government threatens the use of nuclear war. And of course, Moscow claims the Ukrainian forces are suffering mightily on the battlefield. Now, when Ukraine has victories, they put forth that more attacks will be coming deep into Russian territory, and they lament what they call Russian terror. In Zelensky's latest comments, though, he warned Russian terrorists can still attack our energy sector and critical facilities this winter. Now, clearly, he's still digging in for a war that will not be over before next winter settles in again on Ukraine. The narratives both sides would like you to believe have changed very little since the beginning of this war. So, who's winning? The answer is that nobody's probably winning at this point, nor will a winner really emerge anytime soon. Russia and Ukraine are the only parties in this war interested in an actual win. And probably the majority of other countries would like to see this war rage on, providing lucrative economic opportunities for some and eroding Russian influence and strength simultaneously. In my relatively short life, This seems to be one of the most consistent things, apart from death and taxes, is mankind's ability to somehow always keep at war. And as we all know, when the rich wage war, it's the poor who die. And that's the honest truth contained between these narratives. And while I don't give too much credence to either side's narrative as they swap small victories between them, the global nuclear threat in this war of brinkmanship is still a significant cause for alarm for the prepping community in the world. Already, we have seen the Wagner Group rebel and some close to seizing nuclear weapons. We've witnessed the independent liberated Russian fighting forces entering Russian territory in Belgorod, prompting Russia to purportedly remove its nuclear munitions from a storage facility there. The world has repeatedly witnessed attacks on the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power station, one of the top 10 largest facilities in the world. From explosion within the plant's perimeter, to both sides accusing the other of an imminent false flag event, to the draining of the cooling water around the plant, to explosives allegedly planted on the roof of the facility, this is a nuclear accident waiting to happen. Any of these could have easily led to a much larger disaster for the world, but I don't think any of them were solid enough to put a timeline on the world's destruction of 24 hours a week or whatever. But here's the reality. Russia crossing the line and using a nuclear weapon in Ukraine, it can't be completely ruled out. I think we can see repeatedly where this war could have a nuclear chapter to it. And for now, the conflict moves slowly, but if either side loses too much ground too quickly, watch for nuclear brinkmanship to be the strategic threat that they make. In a period of such brinkmanship, one can't rule out completely something more significant occurring, even when it doesn't specifically serve either side's best interests. Continue to prepare as if your country will be actively engaged in the conflict at some point in the future. This means resources will be allocated to the war effort and will decrease your own access and supply while driving up prices and scarcity. What do you think? Who do you believe is winning, or will we ever see a winner in this war? Will a losing Russia go nuclear? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. We'll continue to monitor it as Ukraine escalates its attacks on Russian territory. Economy. The best news on the current economy is that a UPS strike was averted. UPS and the International Brotherhood of Teamsters reached a 5-year contract deal to prevent a nationwide strike. Now, the agreement includes wage increases for all UPS employees and the installation of air conditioning units in new delivery vans. And the agreement addresses the Teamsters' demands for better pay, especially for part-time workers, and improved working conditions, again, like air conditioners on their newer trucks, offering existing employees substantial hourly wage increases over the contract period. Now, UPS strike would have been a devastating blow to the business-to-business side of the supply chain, and for now that threat seems to be over. For now. While UPS will carry on, at least for now, the trucking giant Yellow will not continue. Yellow is a prominent U.S. trucking company with a 99-year history, ceased all operations and plans to file for bankruptcy due to debt and disputes within the Teamsters Union. Now, the shutdown jeopardizes around 30,000 jobs, including 22,000 Teamster members, and marks a significant collapse in the trucking industry. Despite attempts to improve the business through mergers, concessions, and a government pandemic bailout, Yellow struggled to provide consistent service for the customers or generate profits for investors. Competitors have seen an increase in volumes as customers shifted their cargo away from Yellow in recent weeks, and competitors will continue to absorb Yellow's business. And despite more than a year of warnings from multiple economists that a recession is near, they're now stating that we may have dodged a full-blown recession. I recently asked you, the community, your opinion on this in a poll, and only 3% of you are optimistic as the Fed is. An incredible 62% of you indicated that they're pessimistic and still expect things to worsen. Now, the Federal Reserve differs from that pessimistic view. According to the Fed, despite warnings of an impending recession, the American economy has shown signs of acceleration, with consumers continuing to spend, employers hiring, and inflation at its lowest level in 2 years. Now, the economy expanded at a solid 2.4% annual rate in the April to June quarter, driven partly by businesses' robust investment in equipment, software, and buildings, raising hopes of achieving a soft landing with slower growth and reduced inflation. Now, at least when you examine the more significant indicators and data, it does appear that we have averted the worst, but will we see much of an improvement from here? And let's be honest, How was your life really improved financially in the last several years, if at all? As rosy as things may be, at least according to the Fed, the global economy is still facing significant hurdles that will impact everyone. Saudi, they're going to cut their oil supply. They've already reduced world oil inventories. Everyone can expect a rise in prices in the coming months, leading right into winter when stores are most critical. U.S. crude stockpiles have dropped to their lowest level in nearly 2 years as the country struggles to meet rising global demand created by both OPEC Plus and the Russian embargoes. China and Japan's inventories are higher than the rest of the world. And while inflation may have reined in a bit, expect prices to still rise on oil. What do you think? Has the worst of the recession passed? Are you now facing much higher prices than you did just a few years ago on basic goods? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Giveaway. This week's giveaway is a Coleman cooking stove. To be eligible for a chance to win, all you have to do is post a comment below and click the thumbs up icon. To be entered to win, all you need to do is leave a comment on this video and give it a thumbs up. I'll announce the winner next week on our next news segment. The winner of the last video's giveaway of the Quick Clock is the subscriber Simple R Us. Congrats, I'll contact you shortly to get that sent out to you. China. The Biden administration is actively searching for hidden malicious computer code believed to be placed by China in critical infrastructure networks controlling power grids, communications, and water supplies serving U.S. military bases worldwide. Now, the malware's discovery raises concerns that China could disrupt American military operations during conflicts, including potential actions against Taiwan. And the code's potential impact extends to civilian life as it could cut off power, water, and communications to U.S. military bases, which often share infrastructure with ordinary Americans. Now, the investigation involves high-level meetings in the White House, and officials are divided on whether the operation targets military or civilian life in the event of conflicts. I think both civilian and military targets are the same for Chinese cyber warfare hackers. The concern here for us is that, once again, malicious software was discovered laying dormant in software utilized to maintain and operate critical infrastructure systems. It's a loaded gun resting in our infrastructure, and it's just a matter of time before China or some other hacker pulls a trigger on it. In this case, we know China is culpable, but blame won't go too far if the electrical grid overloads or shuts down, or the mix of water you drink is polluted by hackers adjusting the water treatment chemical mixes. There was also talk of leaving the malware in place, monitoring it while hardening off systems to it. And the fact that the State Department said anything means they probably already accomplished much of that, but needed to disseminate the information to other system operators. The fact that we hear anything about this means that there are probably many more we know nothing about, laying dormant. Infrastructure attacks, they're going to be more prevalent in the future, so I encourage you to prepare for these extended outages, especially as things heat up around Taiwan. The United States has announced the military aid package of $345 million for Taiwan, including defense articles, military education, and training. Now, the specifics of the weapons and equipment provided were not disclosed, but media reports suggest they include portable air defense systems, small arms munitions, and reconnaissance equipment. In response, China has criticized the move and vowed to reunify Taiwan with the Chinese mainland by force if necessary. The U.S. has been steadily increasing its support for Taiwan's defense in light of China's assertive actions towards this self-governing island. Now, meanwhile, the Chinese economy's continued weaknesses increases their desperation. China's economy struggles as manufacturing activity declined for a fourth consecutive month in July, and services and construction sectors approach contraction. As the Chinese economy's recovery slows down, consumers have reduced spending on everything except travel and restaurants, resulting in sluggish revenue growth in crucial economic sectors. Now, the government's economic growth target of around 5% may be at risk for a second year. And while policymakers have pledged support, concerns about growing debt risk may hinder aggressive stimulus measures. What do you think? Will the slide of the Chinese economy drive them closer to deals with Russia? We're going to continue to monitor this and expect to witness some strong indicators as we get closer to the BRICS summit to be held in South Africa from August 22nd through the 24th. There's still no word on whether Putin's going to attend, as he technically has an arrest warrant out for him, but Chinese President Xi likely will attend. Heat. You may be feeling the heat of summer right now. I know I am. I'm here in the studio with these lights, no air conditioning. I'm sweating like a whore in church under this shirt here, but as the northern hemisphere tilts into even warmer months ahead, Take the time to understand how this will impact everything from wildfires to health outages to strains on the grid to the impact of our food supply. The threats range from the theoretical, like the simultaneous failures of multiple crops, which is a topic that I'm going to cover in a coming up video, to the immediate, like knowing how to survive an extended power outage through a heat wave. I would encourage you to take a look at our video, How to Survive a Summer Power Outage and Stay Cool, to understand the minimum preparations that you should be making for the real heat that is still ahead of us. There are many indicators that the worst of this is still baked into our future. Record-breaking North Atlantic Ocean temperatures will continue to extreme marine heat waves. Marine heat waves result from a combination of atmospheric and oceanographic processes that can significantly impact aquatic life and bring about extreme weather events. If you are planning a trip to the beach to cool off, you might be disappointed. Sea surface temperatures around Florida's southern tip reached 101.2 degrees, hotter than even some hot tubs. If your food supply or livelihood is tied to the ocean, you're going to have challenges in store for you if temperatures continue to rise or stay where they are for a long enough period. The unprecedented rise in temperatures will have significant repercussions on the availability and production of food. Let me say that again. These temperature rises, they will have significant repercussions on the availability and production of food. As extreme heat persists, agricultural yields will likely be negatively affected, reducing crop productivity. You may notice this if you already have a garden. The heat stresses on livestock can also decrease reproduction rates and lower overall animal health. Now, these impacts on the food supply could exacerbate existing food insecurity and pose substantial challenges to global food systems. So, as you broil in the heat, make plans and take action as if what you are experiencing right now will become even more intense. I would encourage you to prepare as if extreme weather will be your new normal. Now, above all, set up your water resources to include precipitation collection systems, filtering and treatment components, and a healthy supply and storage. Also, try to grow something to reduce the impact of crop failures on your daily life. We'll soon be releasing a video, again I mentioned this a moment ago, that's going to examine the potential threat of multiple worldwide crop failures. Additionally, I would encourage you to check out the video that we just released last Sunday about 25 vegetables that you need to plant this month to stay ahead of these food supply challenges in the future. What do you think? Are we feeling the heat and getting ready for even more? Has it impacted your life in any way, from storms to heat waves to power outages? What are you doing about it? Let the community know in the comments below. Trump. We are in uncharted territory with a presidential candidate facing multiple indictments, and he'll likely see at least 2 more in the coming weeks. The Georgia DA just indicated that the Trump 2020 election probe is ready to go, in the strongest hint yet of a looming indictment. Barriers were seen being erected outside Fulton County Courthouse in downtown Atlanta late last week ahead of what the sheriff's office called high-profile legal proceedings. Now, the former president currently faces 2 separate criminal indictments, one in New York State for allegedly making hush money payments before the 2016 election, and another at the federal level for allegedly mishandling classified documents after leaving office. Now, the federal charges involve 37 counts, including mishandling of national defense information. And while I've stated many times on this channel, I will not delve into the politics for reasons that I've outlined in other videos, I will point out that both the political wrangling and the rhetoric and the potential for civil disorder and flare-ups will increase as we both move into Trump's indictment and election season. Now, of course, we're going to let you know where we think hot spots and flare-ups might occur should any civil disorder occur. But just understand at this point that things are still contentious and that acrimony is only likely to increase in the coming months. What do you think? Will things ever settle down? Are people coming together, or will we continue to see divisions deepen in this country? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. And as always, stay safe out there.